So we are recording. Great. Okay, so Sergeant Fisher, do you want to kick us off tonight with a crime update?
Definitely. And I'm going to be really brief with you because you've only got 9 incidents. The crime analyst pulled your report for this for the last 30 days. 9 incidents. Most of it is, it's all property crime. So you did have 2 residential burglaries. Now, Sam, some of y'all that are just now joining might have missed. We were having a little dialogue about some shed break-ins. I've only got 2 reported here. He indicated that there were some more over there in the neighborhood that they, I guess, just didn't call us and let us know about it. But the 2 I've got, one's in the 1000 block of North 6. Now, this one looks like it's a house under renovation. And so the victim in this case, I guess they're flipping a house, believes that a worker might have used a code for the box. And then they got inside and stole tools. So more than likely was somebody knowing the code to get in and then taking tools, probably somebody that had some knowledge of what was going on there, unless, and this is me speculating, they forgot to lock it and then just somebody random saw a house being renovated and went, nah, there's probably tools in there, and sure enough there were. The other one was in the 1100 block in North 5th, and this is a shed. They pried open the door, got inside, and then they got and like Sam and I were talking, usually in the summertime when people start hitting these sheds, they're getting tools and equipment. And sure enough, they got a pressure washer, chainsaw, and 2 weed eaters.
They left crowbar marks on my shed. It's definitely crowbar. It's definitely a crowbar. They left crowbar marks on the North 5th Street, and they left the crowbar marks on mine. So that's definitely their tool of entry.
What? When was the shed on your property broken into?
I discovered it day before yesterday, I think it was. And I don't know because I don't always walk out in the back a lot.
Right.
It's just, me and this arthritis in the back surgery. But I discovered it around the day before yesterday. They got Reba last week is when she called me and told me that they had gotten her and another house next door to her.
Gotcha. Yeah, this one was reported back on the 21st of last month. Past that, you had this is one of those stories that you can't make up. It's almost like a Coen Brothers movie thing. This is a theft in the 900 block of Lishi, domestic related, and I guess these 2 were going at it, and one of them went and stole the magazine out of the other one's pistol. So stole their bullets, which was, obviously there's some issues going on there, and it's probably for their own safety. But then we've got a front porch of a residence that was under construction in the 1000 block of North 6. Somebody went up there and stole a toolbox off of it. Only 2 theft from vehicles, although one of them in the 1200 block of Pinnock, they shattered out a window and stole a 45 pistol out of that car. And, we've been putting out over and over and over and over, please stop putting guns in your cars, but it's just an ongoing issue. I think we're up to like 37 or 38 guns taken out of cars just in the East alone this year.
Was that related to that day when we had, I think I tagged you on Facebook on it, we had like several cars on Stockel and several on Meridian that had windows busted out? They were literally just going down the block and busting out window after window. Our next door neighbor actually scared them off.
This was within 3 days of that. So the one with the gun was on the 23rd. On the 26th, we've got 1 report. However, that report, because it was all one incident, documented 10 vehicles that had their windows shattered out. Mm-hmm. And this is a problem we're seeing all over. In fact, I had some folks over in the Shelby Hills area contact me today, kind of late notice. They wanted me to come out there tomorrow at 7 o'clock and chat with them, but I'm out of pocket tomorrow night. So I'm going to have one of the on-duty sergeants go over there and chat with them. So we do have somebody from the East Precinct to be there. But they, over there, Glenview, Ozark area, close to Davidson, they had the same issue where they had a number of vehicles where the windows were shattered out. So we're seeing that spike up there. We kind of went for a stretch where not a lot of windows were getting broken. Folks were going around checking doors. If it was locked, they moved on. But it seems like in the last week and a half, we've seen a slew of cars get their windows broken out. In fact, I want to say we're well over, like we're topping 40 cars this week in all of East. So that's pretty disconcerting for us. Then the last category was vehicle theft. You had 3. One of them was a test drive over off of Dickerson. So they went to one of the car lots. Hey, let me test drive this vehicle. They said, sure, handed them the keys. They didn't come back. Yeah. So then you had another one in the 1000 block of Dickerson. Victim got out of their car to retrieve something from the back of the car and left it running. And as they got out and went to the back of their truck, somebody ran and jumped in the driver's seat and drove off. So that was just like really unfortunate timing in that incident. And then the last one, it's unknown. It's a 2015 Jeep Cherokee, but it was in the 1200 block in North 6. And on this one, victim stated, hey, I got both my keys, sets of keys, came outside, my car was gone. So not sure how that was taken. There's no witnesses to it. But, at the end of the day, we're looking at overall for East Nashville, an uptick in violent crime. We're a little over 6% increase in violent crime. And I say that just to give the overall context of the East Nashville community, but then kind of applaud what's going on in Cleveland Park in that every bit of the incidents I've got to report to you tonight are all property crime. If I've got to report crime to a community, I'd much rather be talking about property than violence and personal crime, because that's so much more kind of like bone jarring to a neighborhood when you don't feel safe in your own home. That being said, I think you guys have heard my song and dance for years now. I've been your community coordinator since 2013, and yet hopefully you'll keep me around. But the message I want to throw that, because I've the commander and I both have said it for years. We blame all of this on you, and that the reason why things keep getting better in your neighborhood is that you're so closely connected. You listen to each other. You're really good about talking to us. You're really good about communicating what your needs are. Obviously, we're always listening. Whatever you want to bring to the table, please bring it, because we're your police precinct, and you guys really do respond well in letting us know what your problems are and what we can address, and we'll do our best to do it. And that with responsiveness too, I wanted to, Commander wanted me to remind you, anytime after our last meeting, we got that email from you, and we really appreciate it, that you'd like to sit down and talk with us. Any invitation's always open. Whenever you got a moment free and you want to sit down and talk about issues and address concerns, please fire us a note. Doors open. You know where we work, and we'd love to hear from you. And that goes for everybody. I've got, and just for what it's worth, I've got a citizen I've never talked to the whole time I've worked out East called me this week and said, hey, I've got some problems in my neighborhood. I want to sit down and talk face to face sometime. And I was like, tell me when. So I'm going to sit down with her tomorrow. And that goes to all of you. And get that out to your neighbors. And that's how we've done it for years. That's just, I know the national media narrative with police community relationships is rough. And I may have said it to you guys last time. I know I've said it to a couple other neighborhoods. I think it's important to say, when you look at the national picture, the best way I can describe it is a police community relationship is kind of like a marriage. And you can look at cities in this country and go, oh my God, they should have gotten divorced a long time ago because it's not working. And there's a lot of police community relationships that they could use a whole bunch of therapy and get it on track and make something better. Granted, I might be biased, but give me some credit. I did not grow up wanting to be a cop. I studied language and art. This was an accident. I would not be a cop in another city, though. I wouldn't do it. I think our police community relationship here in Nashville can certainly always use improvement. And that's why we want to be on these meetings. That's why we want to hear from you. That's why we want to talk. And I can't say it enough. Talk to us, because our door's open.
Great.
And that's all I got to say. Unless you got questions.
Thanks so much. Any questions for Sergeant Fisher? No, I think we're good. Thank you so much for signing on, and thanks for the follow-up from last week. I shared all the materials to the Facebook group. So yeah, thanks for being a part of it. Do you need to sign off now?
Yeah, I got to go cook dinner for my son.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks so much for being on. Appreciate
See y'all.
it. Bye.
Bye.
All right, next up, Sean, Councilman Parker. Sorry, not Sean Roberge, the other Sean. Sean Parker, do you have an update for us from the council or from, Metro in general?
Yeah, I got a couple updates. So y'all probably remember, I think it was several meetings ago, I was not able to attend this Cleveland Park neighborhood meeting, but the group, Aaron Armstrong and those folks had the mixed use hotel on Dickerson at the old chicken spot, and so that got approved through Planning Commission a week or two ago, and it'll be on public hearing, I think, in August at council. So that'll be a final opportunity for anybody to enter comments on the record and whatnot and have them considered. Besides the one before y'all tonight, I don't know, no other development proposals that people have approached me about really come to mind in the Cleveland Park area right now. We had a couple of big bills at council this meeting that was on Tuesday. One of them was the home-based business bill, which has been super contentious. I would say I mostly heard supportive feedback from people in District 5 about it. So what this bill does is it basically allows some very limited scope kinds of businesses to operate out of homes. So things like studios, some personal care stuff, things like if somebody's working on guitars in their garage, there's a lot of restrictions around like what hours these businesses can accept customers and how many visits per day and all that. And, I was kind of on the fence about this bill. I agreed with its intent from the beginning, but there were some things that I thought it was really important to get amended into the bill. And mostly, these are things that I wanted to see as a result of how the short-term rental entry into our neighborhoods played out. So one of the things that I got amended into the bill is a requirement that these are actually primary residences, that the people who are applying for these permits, actually do live in these homes. So there is there's no eligibility for a non-owner occupied home business. That wouldn't be a home business. That would just be a business in a residential home. So I thought that was really important to get in there, and that amendment did get on. We also got a sunset provision in, the bill's proponents all said that this isn't going to cause any problems and it's going to be fantastic. And, if that's the case, then I don't think that when this bill sunsets in 2023, that we're going to have any issue with extending it. But if we have sort of opened ourselves up to, a lot of activity that's disruptive to neighborhoods and communities, then we're going to have a sort of a baked-in opportunity to bail ourselves out or revisit it at least in I think it's January of 2023 is when the sunset provision is. So this is something that again, there were a lot of people on both sides. A lot of people were very concerned about sort of the short-term rental effect on neighborhoods. I don't really foresee that with some of the protections that we put in the bill. And then there were a ton of people in the community who were supportive of it. I mean, people who have studios in their homes, people who, build things, repair things, tax preparation services, people who do have these sort of like very low impact businesses that I think can be compatible with a residential neighborhood. So that was a substantial bill. I mean, it's something that Metro has sort of looked at doing a number of times over the years, and you know, I'm pretty pleased with the outcome. I would say, just in terms of getting the protections and kind of restrictions in there that people asked for. We also avoided some amendments that I thought were just maybe unfair or wouldn't have been very great. So I'm pleased with the way it went. And I don't know, was anybody here following that bill closely?
Not closely, but it's not the first time it's come up.
No,
So you guys did a marathon meeting Tuesday.
Another one, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have watched any of them, but you know, we were promised this, you know, electronic voting system, so we could all, you know, be at home and be able to click yes, no, or abstain on every vote. That didn't work. So basically, every procedural motion, every vote, every item on the floor, we have to go through a roll call vote of 40 members and get a yay or a nay or an abstain from 40 different people, and it just, what would be like a 3-hour council meeting is now 6, 8, 9 hours easily. It's been unfortunate the way that worked.
I know Kathleen Murphy, she was talking about that the next, she's like, we're still, or you guys were like, you went like what, 8, 9 hours? It's something crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, it wasn't, you know, there was some big stuff on the agenda, but it wasn't like a crazy packed agenda. I think in, you know, normal circumstances, that would have been a 4.5-hour meeting. But it's pretty frustrating because, you know, we're supposed to be doing this whole like overhaul of our IT system within Metro, and it's just the way that these systems that we're paying for do not seem to work for a pretty simple application like a virtual meeting is pretty frustrating to council members, and kind of calls into question a lot of this stuff that's happening with our IT overhaul. But anyway, yeah, are there any questions that folks have about council business or development in the community, or just anything else that's on your mind?
I had a quick one, Sean. I don't know if Adam Buzzard across the street from you reached out to you about the 1220 development. They actually just wrapped up. They wiped that house down. They started yesterday morning. I know the gentleman, I forget the developer's name, but he was trying to get 4 on that, but then that was turned down by you all, and I didn't know if there was any other amendments or if he was going to try to attempt another variance of sorts or what.
So
I just saw movement, so I was like, did something happen?
You know, to BZA or planning or anything that would, you know, in terms of another variance or another request to be able to build more units on that lot. As far as I know, it's RM20-A, and whatever they're entitled to build is probably what they'll build in terms of density there. There is no building permit. I saw Adam's email and I responded to him. There is no building permit yet, so we have no idea what it'll look like or what's going there. There's just the demo permit is all they've applied for and paid for. So I guess it's kind of a wait and see thing, but it'll probably be similar to the drawings that they showed with their proposed variants, but just with one less unit, I would imagine.
Cool.
Hayden, which property are you talking about again, just for the record?
So it is 1220 North 5th Street. I'm at 1211, so it is, you can't see it, but it is like directly, it's right at the end. It is a funny shaped lot. It's, I wouldn't say a polygon, it's more like a triangle. You know, when let's say if you're going north on Lishi, and you take a right at the, well, you know where the Wanderer is now,
Yeah.
the new, whatever that is, that apartment complex, you take a right and you go up that curve.
Yeah.
This is that house that it was like a beige brick.
And they've torn it down now?
Oh yeah, they started yesterday morning. It's gone. It's flat. It's completely
I literally
flat.
walked by there like last weekend and it was still there. So that's crazy.
It was like it was never there.
I passed by a day before yesterday when I went over to my aunt's house, and it was sitting there like it always has. It's right there in front of the triangle, the little island triangle right there. It's in Douglas.
Yeah, it's gone. They left the trees. I hope they saved 1 or 2, but probably not. But you know.
Got it.
Wishful.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
I
thanks.
hate to lose all the mature trees we've got around here.
One of them's dead, so I do hope they take the one. That
Yeah,
one,
take the dead one.
I constantly walk over there and pick up firewood for my fire pit out back. There's
Nice.
something there always. So it's like that one could go, but we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Well, we can always get our beautification commissioner to just plant more trees over at Cleveland Park. Right, JB?
He's on a mission, man.
Sean, Parker, you got anything else for us?
The last thing I'd like to mention, someone from, and geez, I forget his name at the moment, but someone from Maxwell Heights had kind of reached out to me about kind of looking at a more long-term vision for our parks network in the community, and how we might be able to better connect them, specifically connecting Frederick Douglass, McFerrin, and Cleveland parks. And so that's just something I guess that's maybe a good conversation for our beautification commissioner to be involved with. I know they did a tree planting that I think he was involved with in McFerrin Park and Frederick Douglass Park just last weekend, I think it was. So that's
Yep.
really awesome. But yeah,
I think they planted 15 between those two parks last weekend.
Oh, nice. And so this person, and I hate that I'm forgetting his name right now. I'm sure I'll get him to come to one of these Cleveland Park meetings at some point. But I think one of his top priorities, and one that I share, is getting, if you've ever spent time at Frederick Douglass Park, there is zero shelter. It is a park that, it's great, beautiful, open space, but if it's 96 degrees and you want to take the kids out there, you're all under the sun the whole time. So we're thinking that trying to shoot for some shelters there, like what the pavilions we have at Cleveland would be fantastic. But it's not really a Cleveland Park specific thing, but I think it'd be a great addition to our little parks network over here.
I'd also love to advocate for those shadings that they do now for the playground equipment, only because during neither one of McFerrin or Cleveland has any tree real shade. And so, I mean, in the afternoons, I've got, a kid who literally scalds the back of his legs trying to go down those slides or sit on those swings. So, and I've seen them around. I mean, they make them, but obviously if we're going to be doing an investment in parks or looking at that, and we can definitely bring Russell into the conversation, just something to consider as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before Scott Davis went out of office, he and I and Monique Odom had talked about Frederick Douglass Park, because my church holds the church picnic down there and invites all the people in the apartments and around there in that community. And the builder who was working on the units that were torn down by the tornado was going to put something there for us, but it never happened. So, but Monique Odom is aware that it has been brought to the table to try to get some type of pavilions there. When we have our picnic there, we take a bunch of tables from the church, and we have several tents for people to sit under and everything.
Oh, nice.
And people bring their own telescopic chairs. So it definitely has been talked about. And Monique, Sean, if you ask her about it, to reflect back on that conversation that she and I had with Scott Davis, it's been probably 2 years now, at least a year and a half. So it's been thrown out there.
I'll definitely ask Monique about that for sure.
Thank you.
Great. Well, Sean, if you're wrapped up, Sam, it's actually, if you want to go ahead and do your tax update real fast, and then we'll finish off with Sean's presentation on the development.
Mine is not going to take but a minute. The No Tax for Nash group has been here in the neighborhood. I talked with several people. There's a lot of people that are upset about it. If you want to sign the petition, you can sign it all online. It's No Tax, the number 4 Nash, www.notax4nash.com. Michelle is the person that you'll be emailing, and she'll get back with you if you leave your information. And also you can sign every one of the petitions that is on there, including the one that is a requirement that the tax percentage won't, if it goes over 2% more, then it needs to be a ballot issue. So it's several things out there going on about the tax because a lot of people are unhappy. The mayor was on the news this evening about it. it's very controversial in a time right now when so many people are losing jobs and their income's just not there to take a hit that large. So I wanted to share that with everybody for those who are interested in possibly signing the petition. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Sam. Okay, Sean Roberge, you're up.
Good evening. How is everyone doing? I see the waves in the meeting. So I imagine most of you have gotten the yellow card in the mail, or I guess most of you being anyone that's in the census tract over here, which is how they define the mailers that go out. Given the circumstances that occurred last year with the rezoning over there on our property on North 6th Street, we have requested a zoning change to remove the SP and requested an R6SA zoning. Is that right? Yeah. And well, we requested R6. The planning department said it needs to be A because we're in an urban core technically here. And you have alley access. So they wanted the A because it changes kind of the parking arrangement rules for property over there. And what that means for our 9 parcels means that we will have we'll have the ability to build 2 units per parcel, called HPRs, horizontal property regimes, and those can be arranged in 2 individual units that stand apart, or they can be arranged in duplex units that share what's called a party wall. And we intend to build a mix of both of those, starting with the interior lots on the property. We feel like this, from our experience last year, we feel like this met a lot of the requests that we've seen. We also feel like it let a lot of people down, but we have had our conversations with the planning department. The planning department says this matches our overall policy. We support this. And so the official language hasn't come through from the planning department, but we were given the go ahead essentially to say, yep, this is going to be something that we're okay with. And we'll be expecting a writing for a recommendation of approval from the planning department shortly. We are on the planning commission hearing for July 23rd. And, you know, the church still owns and holds those last 3 parcels, and they are just like before. They are in this zoning change request with us. And we support them and they support us, and we're partners moving forward here. So, you know, I'm pretty sure most of the people that are watching this and that are familiar with last year's events and everything that's transgressed since and all the zoning changes going on in this neighborhood are pretty well aware of what the R6A zoning implies for the neighborhood, and if they have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. The thing is, we can't get any more on the edge of a neighborhood than we are, and we have a lot of contiguous lots here, so it makes a lot of sense to move forward with something like this. And given our feedback, we think this should be supported across the board. And if it's not, it's okay. Not everybody's going to get behind everything. And I would like to hear the dissent and recommendations across the board. I'm always happy to listen and hear and discuss in a proper form.
Right. Does
anybody have any questions about?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or anything like that? Joel, I see you unmuted. You want to go? You're still can't hear you, Joel.
Can't hear you, Joel.
Oh, he signed off. Okay.
All
Well,
right.
all right. We'll come back to that one. Anybody else? Other questions?
So Scott, Sean, so basically you're going to build the one in the front and the one in the back type style.
No, we can't do that. In the urban zoning overlay, if you have alley access, you cannot build one in the front, one in the back. That's unacceptable design by Metro Planning Commission standards.
So it'll only be
They,
running.
you either have to do side by side or you have to share a party wall, is what it's called, and it's a proper duplex.
Okay, so the Dadu concept doesn't apply in that one.
No, does not.
Because you're building two full-size houses.
Correct.
Okay.
And from my understanding, and not entirely clear on this, we can build garages behind those units. We just cannot build dwelling units that classify dwelling units, anything that classifies as a dwelling unit at the rear of the structure.
Right.
And that's is what I do, but there's a lot to this and a lot to understand. So
how large would the units be?
Pardon?
How large would the units be?
The units?
Yeah.
I mean, they can be what kind of, like, square footage wise?
Yeah, square
or
How about stories? How many stories?
Yeah, I just want to know just like what it's going to look like. I know you mentioned just kind of the general layout, but just trying to envision
if you think about any duplex or tall and skinny that currently exists in the neighborhood, that's a pretty good metric by which to measure the size. Because if you go beyond or way below any of those metrics, you fall outside of what we use as comps for an area. Once you change, if you don't have a comparable property, you can't actually know what you're getting yourself into. So you're looking at across McFerrin Heights, Highland Heights, McFerrin Park, Cleveland Park. You're looking at a range of anywhere from 1,700 square feet to 23. There's one on Lishy that's going up at $2,350 per unit right now. 2,300 square feet. It's also dictated somewhere in the zoning code under district bulk tables. And those aren't numbers I know off the top of my head. Floor area ratios are dictated by the square footage of a lot. And those lot sizes are changed. It's a moving target when you include HPRs, from what I understand. Does that answer your question, Justin?
Yep.
Joel, you want to try again?
Yeah, sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. I think maybe Sam asked this. I caught the tail end. Are you building Daddy's behind there, or are you allowed to, or what's the plan for that?
No, once the R6A zoning goes into effect, we can only build garages, not a dwelling unit.
Got it. And then just curious, is the church, are you building units for them as well, or are they just kind of rezoning for now and they'll figure their watts out later?
I cannot speak for the church.
Okay. And then just curious what your timeline was, like once you get all your approvals and everything for building.
I mean, we'd like to be building by this fall.
Cool. Great. That's all I got.
So you'll be replacing the sidewalks by the code's new standard of if you tear up sidewalks, you gotta replace the sidewalks that are demolished.
That's a bit of a loaded question, but yes, typically would be the answer. A lot of times, yes, typically. It's far cheaper to build a sidewalk than it is to pay the in-lieu fee. But if there's an existing sidewalks in place, the new sidewalk standards change, and then codes has different requirements, but technically Public Works may that's a very difficult question to answer, Sam. Until you get to a permitting process. If we were upzoning the property to a greater density, I could unequivocally say yes, we are putting in brand new sidewalks. Now, Public Works may turn around and say, there's existing sidewalks here, we recommend you pay the in lieu fee. And these are also recommendations, but certain recommendations come with certain infrastructure and implications on another side, and so on and so forth. It's not a question that can be answered with any absolute certainty
But in
until
all
you get to the
likelihood,
permitting.
yes.
What's that?
In all likelihood, yes, we're doing.
In all likelihood, yes.
Because they're doing a development on Edwin Street up there, and they're putting in the sidewalk. And originally, there weren't any sidewalks in the 500 block, anywhere on Edwin Street. Edwin runs from Meridian up to the curve and goes around to East Trinity Lane. But they have already laid the sidewalks.
If you look at the city, Joseph just got brand new sidewalks. They didn't put in the new sidewalks to replace the old existing ones. Yeah, there's too many variables there to give any absolute answer.
Yeah, I think in that case on Joseph, it was because the new sidewalks were put in by utility contractors who had to do work underneath there. Yeah. And, you know, the city didn't, they just required them to rebuild the sidewalks to existing standards, not the, you know, the new sidewalk standards.
Well, I think we've just personally gotten some unexpected answers back from codes about sidewalks, and we've done and haven't done and had to pay the in lieu fee for that. Yeah. We're not, by just looking at the site, we weren't necessarily anticipating. So they're taking things into account that we don't always know. Yeah. If we had to guess, we're assuming we're just going to put the new sidewalks in.
Right.
And that's going to be on the permit. We're going to have to do it. If they say we don't have to, because the sidewalks are in great shape, we're not going to tear up sidewalks and for no reason, but they're almost definitely going to be replaced.
Right. Thank you for the answer.
Yeah. Do you have to do any work to the alleyway?
No.
Okay.
Sean, there was in one of the neighborhood cleanups last year, we talked about the tennis courts, and there was some suggestion that maybe there'd be some sort of private-public partnership to make those tennis courts better. Is that still on the table at all?
No. Situation's changed. Sorry, JP. I know you're.
I'll do it myself.
That was off the table the moment we figured out how much it actually costs to replace a tennis court. One single tennis court. And it was just like, no, that's not happening.
Curious, how much does it cost to replace a tennis court?
About $50,000, and there's 3 of them there.
My gosh, no wonder Metro Parks won't do anything about our tennis court.
I'll take 2.
Metro Parks also views it and in a community aspect. They say the way this is like, because I dug way into this, and Metro, like, they actually look at it and say, all right, McFerrin Park's tennis courts are in good shape. So on the money that we're going to allocate to our parks, which is very limited, why would we go and spend $150,000 on 3 courts when those people could walk 15 minutes on a bad day to those courts?
And they told us you can't, if I'm not mistaken, Sean, you can't donate to a specific park.
Right. So
you can only donate to parks department.
There were catches to that. There are ways to get private capital into public improvements for park systems that you have to jump through a whole slew of hoops. And then, you know, we went even through the hoops, like, let us do it ourselves. And then it was like, you know, you get into like indemnifying the city and so on and so forth. And it's very complicated, but, you know, complicated.
Well, we appreciate you looking into it for us.
Right.
Getting us some ideas of how much that would have cost.
Right.
I was going to be for the project too, but you know.
Right.
So, Sean, one more question for you. You mentioned duplexes and HPRs, like maybe a mix of both. Just curious, like, if you, I'm sure you're very early on stage here, but like, what does that mix look like to you, or why not just all HPRs or duplexes, or just kind of curious?
Well, it'd be a lot cooler if we could mix it up, but our would require us is we can do a mix, but we can only do a mix per parcel.
Right.
Right. So those existing lot lines stay in place. And that's why if one parcel can be two separated units, the next parcel would have to be conjoined. But like, as far as what that mix looks like, I can tell you unequivocally, it doesn't look like Meridian in the Fahrenheit side, where it's just like,
We're just all skinnies in a row.
it doesn't look like that. And we have
Kind of match our neighborhood look to a degree.
that message hasn't changed from day one, right? Like from our conceptual designs for what we wanted to put in over there a year ago to what it is now, like I have no desire to be a sore thumb, you know. And you know, we've got a lot of mixes of architecture in this neighborhood, like a whole lot, and tying that in a more cohesive kind of view is pretty high on the priority list. You know, I drive by this shit every day. I don't want to drive by something that pisses me off. And that means, you know, taking extra care to make sure it's aesthetically pleasing.
So it's a thought with like one lot would be HPRs and next would be a Dadu, and just to like add more.
They're all
variety,
HPRs.
No, but it's
it'll be
all
two like
HPRs.
tall skinnies and then a duplex, tall skinny and a duplex. Like
Right. Something a little bit more along those
yeah,
lines.
that's more interesting looking for sure.
And you know, we've worked on designs already that for other council districts that are, it's like, well, let's try and make this look like one house, even though it's two. But to a lay person standing on the street, like, unless you paid attention to a mailbox, you wouldn't necessarily know the difference. Kind of thing. And it's not to say we're going to nail it, but I'm sure shit going to try, because we're going to drive by it. I'm going to walk my dog by it, that sort of thing.
That'll look somewhat like what they have on the corner of McFerrin and Seymour, I think. There's a huge, big house, but it's, I think, 2 units in it. And they go down that street about halfway. It took that corner.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like that corner unit. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. I think they did a good job with that one.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. And you know, there was extra care that was put in on a design end of what it looks like. And honestly, a lot of that design end just comes out to exterior features. You know, can you put one front door up here? Can you put the other front door on the side? And it be just kind of out of sight, which is what we have for a lot of these historic homes over here. Like a lot of these historic homes that have that kind of wraparound porch will have 2 front doors, but like only one is ever utilized anymore in this day and age. And you know, that simple things like that can go a really long way to making those aesthetics more appealing.
Well, any other questions for Sean?
Can I just share my thoughts on this as where we are now? So I've been pretty resistant to, you know, spot zoning R6, you know, within the interior of the neighborhood. And I've kind of worked to keep the Dadu SP more or less intact within the interior of the neighborhood. I think that that's something that I've heard over and over again that people care about, that people want to maintain some of the existing layout and character of the neighborhood, and that the Dadu SP does allow for some additional housing options. It allows for the income stream possibility for an Airbnb in the backyard. It allows a lot of stuff while still maintaining that sort of character within the core of the neighborhood. But in this case, you know, these are the reason that I don't, you know, I'm considering it, you know, these are 9 contiguous parcels on the collector artery right across from institutional and open space use. So I think that it is maybe a good opportunity to have this conversation there. And I don't really see it as, you know, interrupting the contiguous nature of the Dadu SP, which is the reason I felt the need to comment on this is because I've had a lot of conversations with people who've got, they've got a mid-block single family or the mid-block, Dadu SP lot somewhere in the neighborhood, and they just really think it should be R6, and I'm not really seeing it. And I've gotten a lot of pushback from people on that. So I just want to kind of make it clear why I'm considering this and why I told Sean Roberge I would consider it when there's some other ones deeper into the neighborhood where maybe I haven't been willing to consider it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Great. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions from the group? Nope. All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Sean. I appreciate you presenting today and giving us a chance to give some feedback and ask some questions. What's the next step for you? You said you're meeting on what, the 23rd?
Yeah. So it's mailers, yard signs, and then our hearing, which is the next public forum. And when planning brings their recommendation in, I'll make that available to the CPNA. I'm a member of all three associations, so I can make it available in all three.
Okay.
And just so that, it's accessible, but like a lot of people like much more Facebook oriented. I can put it up there, and this was talked through a lot, and I think we've got plenty of support on this, and hopefully we have the neighbors' support.
Hey, Sean, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the concessions that you all made on this. I know last year was a tough one for all the, there was a lot of conversation there, and I think this is a lot better. I think ideally this would all be single family homes, but that's not the nature of what's going to happen in that area. And so I'm on board for whoever cares about my opinion.
I care.
I plus one that too. I think this seems like a great plan and sounds like it'll be a good fit for that lot. So I appreciate where it landed and your flexibility.
Awesome. Well, good.
You want to do like a show of hands? Is everyone okay with Sean's proposal? Just want to make sure we have a neighborhood
for posterity. Yeah. I guess raise your hand if you are in favor of Sean's proposal.
Do I get to raise my?
Yes, you get to raise your own hand. For those of you who don't have your video on, that's okay. We'll just pretend you're raising your hands. Unless maybe if you're not raising your hand, let us know and we'll record that. But thanks everybody for chiming in. I appreciate the presentation, John. That was really helpful.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any business for the neighborhood? I'm not hearing anything.
Traffic calming. I figure I'll give a quick update. I give an update on Facebook about it. There's the lines are striped on Meridian and North 6th, and I just have to get signatures from folks on Meridian to install the traffic tables because they're physical adjustments to the road, and so I'm going to work on that. It was baby and COVID all sort of happened at the same time, plus tornado, and it was a little rough. But we'll get back on that track here soon. Now the interest is picking back up.
For what it's worth, I really like the corner of 6th, what they did there. I think that, especially as a pedestrian, like it feels a lot safer to cross there.
I've actually seen it in action, because that was one of our big concerns in the discussions that we had was how fast people turn off from Cleveland onto 6th. And it really has slowed people down. Like you said, Joel, I feel a lot safer walking across there. So yeah, I don't think we have anything else. We're probably going to be posting on Facebook about a neighborhood cleanup soon. Now that it's post 4th of July, so we can go out and clean up all the fireworks debris. But I'll post about that, so keep a lookout. Again, it'll be social distancing. I'm sure Russell will set up in the parking lot at Cleveland and have everything set out, and then we'll just send everybody out in teams and You can tackle whatever section of the neighborhood you want. As we always say, if you come out, you can go clean your own street. We don't care where you do it, just as long as you pick up some garbage. So thanks for everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you in August.
Good to see everybody.
See you.
Bye-bye.